In this video, we'll be taking a look at the wall rail from the Advanced Steel PowerPack and how it can be used. Here we'll take a look at a couple of methods for inserting the wall rail using the tool provided in the PowerPack for Advanced Steel. We will look at placing the rails in for platforms and how they can be placed and connected in slope scenarios. Placing a wall rail in can often be achieved by utilizing a single 3D polyline along the path that we want the wall rail to follow, as you can see in this particular case right here. What we'll be looking at today is how we can handle the wall rail in cases where that does not occur. If I come into here, I'm just going to come over to the end where I have my tab for PowerPack. I'll find the stair and railing vault. I'll open that up, and then I'll come to the railing section, and you'll see at the bottom we have wall-mounted rail. Now to place this in, we'll do this on lines. I'll show you what the logic is behind this, how this works. I'll come into here, I'll press L for line. What we want to do is we want to define where the railing starts and ends by defining the endpoint of our lines to match. What that means is if our start point is here, the first line we draw in, that should be the endpoint of our line. If our endpoint of our handrail is here, when we draw it in, then this should be or rather here, this should be the endpoint of our handrail. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to come in, I'm going to create this corner piece that's going to go across and around like this at 90 degrees. So I'm going to start by picking the middle, and the end of the line will represent the start point. I'll do the same thing again. I'll pick the middle, and the end of the line will represent the end point. So each line is coming from the middle towards the outside. The end of each line represents where the handrail starts and ends. And now I can say wall-mounted rail, lines, and I'm just going to pick the lines, right-click. It asks me if I want to select any beams, plates, or gratings it may be attached to. I don't have any, so I'll right-click. And you can see the handrail comes in with the bend in the corner and all of the supporting plates. And you can go through and you can make your adjustments. What if I wanted to add another section into that? So in this case here, I'm going to have a rail there. I'm going to have a rail come across, and I'm going to go have a rail there. How do I do that? Well, same thing holds true with this. I'll come here with line. My start point is here, so I'm going to come from the inside to that start point and go there. This is where my start point is. So the end of my line represents my start point. At the other end of the handrail, I'm going to draw a line from the inside towards the other end of the handrail. And the end of that line represents the end of my handrail. So I've got my start point and my end point. In the middle, it doesn't matter. It will automatically fill that in. So if I come to wall-mounted rail now, lines, I can pick the two lines, right-click, and then I'll just right-click again. I don't have any objects to attach to. And you can see that the rail is coming in with the corner bends, and it's coming across. Now that works fine when these are horizontal. When it goes sloped, you'll notice there may be a little bit of an issue. So we'll do the exact same thing again. I'll show you. Here's the slope. Okay. I'll do it like that. I'll do the same thing we did on the other one here, from the inside towards the outside. I'll go lines. I'll pick my lines, right-click. And you're going to notice it doesn't quite attach properly in the corners when it's on a slope. Now I've done this, even if by setting the UCS, it doesn't want to create that correctly. So here's what I do with this. Okay. I close that. If I need that on a slope, I can come back to wall-mounted rail, pick my lines. And in this case here, I'll probably want the lines to go in the same direction. So that way that the connectors will come out the same way. So in here, if I have the line going from, we'll do it from scratch, line from bottom to top as an example. I'll do the same on the other side here. So like that, now I have my line here, I have my line here. And what I'm going to do is I'll do wall mounted rail, lines. I'll pick the first one, right click, and create that rail all by itself. I'll do the same for the second one. Same method we used before. And by having the lines go in the same direction, you're going to notice that we have in here the connections coming out on the same side. Okay. To get the rail in the middle, we're just going to come to the wall mounted rail again, and this time we'll use points. Now I'm going to go from the end of the system line on the first one to the end of the system line on the second one. Right click, enter. What you'll notice is it doesn't quite come in the right place, and that's because the wall connections are pushing it outwards. But it's pushing it out. What we want to do is we want to move our system points. Right? So the system points are going to be at the points that we selected. Remember, we selected the end of the system line. So we're going to come into here. We're going to select those system lines. We're going to move those points that we placed on the end of the system line. We're going to move them. So I'll pick both of those. Then I'll just say move. What I'm moving is I'm moving those points. I'm going to move it from the end of this system line here, and I'm going to move it over to there. So now I'm basically lining up the pipe by moving the system points that distance. And you can see now my handrails line up. Okay. Just to show that again, we drew from the end of the system line to the end of the system line, and then we got a point at each side. And that's what I want to move. I want to move these points that I showed up. So this point and this point here. Okay. And I'm just going to say move. So I'm moving those, but where, how far? Well, I'm going to move them from the end of this system line to the end of this system line, just as an example. And that lines up. You can see the rails line up. And I get my rail in here. I get all the connectors. The only thing we would need at this point now is the connection or the bend in between. They have in here, if we go to the extended modeling connection vault, you come down to miscellaneous, which is right down here. They have railing joint handrail. And with that, we can come in, we can just select the two pieces, pick one, right click, pick the other, and we can either put a miter cut, or we have the option here for a knee. And you can set the values for how they're connected by shop or by site, and you can say what type of cut is that going to be. So railing joint handrail, I'll pick the two, right click, and knee. I just put the formula 1.5 times diameter. So what that gives us now is we have our handrail on a slope. We've got all the connectors on the right side, and you can see in the corners they're connected up. And we can control the spacing and the amount of connectors for each run individually and independently, make adjustments as needed, and we have our handrail going along the slope. Now that can go in any direction you want. All you need to do is just draw your line, select the line, and then place the rail in between by points. Move the rail and connect it using joint handrail. Okay. So on landings or platforms, you can see right away it's going to come in with the bends, no problem. You can put in 1, 2, 3. You can use a polyline if you have something more complicated than that. So if you want it in here, you could come in, draw a polyline. Right? So if you had more runs than just that, use the polyline if it's on a platform, and just pick that line, right click. And you'll see, as long as the line is horizontal, you're not going to have a problem. It's going to come in. You can do all your platforms that way. So anywhere there's a landing or a horizontal level, just draw your lines and connect the rails. If you're going up a slope, Do the slopes independently, each slope, and then place a rail in between by points. Just move the points whatever distance it is away so that it lines up the rails, and then use the connector from the connection toolbar. Thank you, and have a great day.